Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the podcast, where today Spurs are in crisis. So Toby, Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur, where on earth do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's best we probably start with that Atletico Madrid game, the 5-2 loss that I think really just sums up Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. The terrible mistakes, the way those mistakes were managed, the way the manager has reacted to them, and I think just the way that the sort of footballing world and social media has reacted to Tottenham. And yeah, it feels like so far for Spurs, it can't get much worse. And then that game happened, and it has. Can it get any more? Can it get any worse from here? Maybe it could. Maybe it could. But yeah, let's start with that game because even the first 15 minutes, I feel like we could talk about for an hour. It was just mental.
Well, well, you said it there, could it get worse? And I think that's the worry. I think people do genuinely think it could get worse, and it's already a pretty perilous situation that they find themselves in. But like you said, yeah, let's talk about the Atletico game. And I suppose I think we've all been looking at the Champions League a bit differently in England because of the fact that the English teams have been doing really well, especially the likes of Liverpool, Newcastle, and Tottenham, who haven't necessarily had the best or haven't had the best league campaigns based on the expectations they had going into it. So maybe people thought that Atletico are a really good side, but maybe Spurs could do something, or if they lose, at least lose with some dignity and a good performance. And yeah, everyone knows what happened. It was an absolute mauling. But I think the worst thing is, I think Spurs are shooting themselves in the foot. It's not even before you even get to play style, players being picked, the manager Igor Tudor. It's about the individual errors they're making consistently, and before you even give yourself a chance in the tie, you find yourselves 4-0 down after 22 minutes, and it's just worst case scenario kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's easy to sort of blame Kinsky, I suppose, for the two mistakes that he made. And yes, they were two mistakes that basically gave Atletico Madrid a goal. I mean, one of them gave them a very, very good chance, and the other one literally gave them an open goal to score in. But I think even besides that, you had Van der Ven slip an error, which led them through for their second goal. Their fourth goal from the corner was a very good initial save from Vicario, but then they just didn't deal with it, and it was just easy for Atletico to apply that pressure and to score. And then their fifth goal as well, just from their own corner, it took one clearance, one amazing touch from Griezmann, and Julian Alvarez was basically through on goal from the halfway line.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's easy to. You could just say it was Kinsky's fault, terrible game. That's why Spurs lost. But even without those two mistakes, they still lost 3-2, and Atletico Madrid were the far, far better side. So I think even for Spurs to set themselves up to be in that position by playing Kinsky, which, yeah, some of the fan base were asking for, and Vicario hasn't been in the best form, felt like a the wrong time, I think, to have Kinsky come in what was probably one of the last opportunities for some not success in Tottenham season, but for something for them to look forward to as opposed to their Premier League games where, yeah, they need to win, but they need to win them so they don't get relegated. So I don't think many are particularly looking forward to it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think it's the fact that the timing of when you decide to play Kinski, because like you said, people have been asking for it. I've even mentioned on here that I'm not the biggest fan of Vicario. And then you think to yourself, okay, when could Igor Tudor have decided to play Kinski? He could have gone right from the beginning of his tenure and gone, right, even though it's Arsenal in the North London derby, I'm going to play him. Or after the performance, Vicario's performance against Arsenal in the North London derby, you could have gone, okay, in the next game, Fulham. But maybe if you're going to play him in that against Atletico Madrid away from home in the Champions League, when he's only made two appearances all season in the League Cup, then it's probably the Crystal Palace game. At least then you're at home, and at least then if you're eyeing him up for the Atletico Madrid game, then at least you can see how he goes in that one, and then decide, okay, am I going to go with him or am I going to go with Vicario? But to throw him in cold, even if it was a tactical decision, because maybe you think Atletico aren't going to press as much from the front foot and give the goalkeeper a bit more time on the ball, so you want a better pass on the ball. to not even just test it against Crystal Palace, which even then though is such an important game because of the position where Spurs are in the league. Well, if you're willing to go for Vicario against Crystal Palace, you have to go with him against Atletico Madrid, and so that's where the thinking is confusing. One thing I will say though, I think it was the right decision to take him off because I know a lot of people have been talking about, oh, you're going to kill his confidence. He's only 22. You're going to kill his career. It's another Loris Karius moment. But actually, Spurs at that point, what, 3-0 down but when he comes off? It could have been worse. There's no guarantee he was going to get the opportunity to redeem himself because he might not have touched the ball again. It might have hit everything else long. And then Spurs wouldn't be able to play in the way they wanted to and able to get themselves back into the game. So I've seen a lot of people criticize Tudor for that, and I think everyone is just hammering Spurs from every angle that they can. But actually, I think taking him off, as harsh as it may seem, because it is goalkeeper, it is headline stuff, as everyone is talking about, I think it was the right decision. Do you agree with that, or do you think that Tudor was in the wrong to take him off, and especially so early?
No, I definitely think it was the right decision. I think, like you said, it was done from the match and the team point of view, but also from Kinsey's point of view, because especially being a goalkeeper, it's very difficult to sort of shrug that off, carry on, and really focus, and especially in a position where you do need to be super, super focused all the time. And it's quite different to if a striker, for example, had missed two absolute sitters basically on the line. It's least you can be thinking like the striker got into that position, they're going to be in the build-up play. Whereas when a keeper is making a mistake, it's so detrimental to the performance that if it's as bad as it was, then you do need to change something. However, as much as I do agree with it, however, I think Igor Tudor's reactions as he was coming off, which a few people have discussed, is so strange and so like cold. And especially when he said in the press conference himself that he did it because of the team and because of Kinsky. So he clearly knew that it was probably the right thing for him to do as well. To react like that almost just seems to contradict that entirely, and just not even look at him as he's coming off the pitch is crazy. And Tudor probably doesn't care about the man management side of Spurs because he knows he's not going to be there very long and just wants the results. But even so, you could be a little bit nicer considering the guy was walking off in tears. But I do think it was the right decision, but maybe just not handled in the best way, sort of in the moment.
I think you can probably make excuses for Tudor in that moment though, because he's taking off his goalkeeper for another goalkeeper, and then he's probably looking at the rest of his side, and it's a moment in the game where the game is paused, and so he can maybe talk to some of the other players on the pitch and go, right, this is what we need to do to get ourselves back into the game. Take this moment to breathe, regroup, and get reset about what we're going to do going forward. And so I can understand the fact that he's not necessarily going to him straight away. I also think that sometimes in the media they play it up as very performative. Like you come off the pitch as a player, you have to high five the manager, and if you don't, oh my god, you're having a falling out. You don't like each other. What's going on? But that's not necessarily the case. I can completely understand in that situation. Kinsky, depending on the type of person he is, might not want anyone to talk to him in that moment because he might go, I don't want to hear that, oh, don't worry, mate, it's okay, this will happen. It doesn't happen. That was really, really bad. There's nothing anyone can say in that moment to Kinsky to make him feel better. And so it depends on what side of the coin you really want to look at it. I'm not massively against it. I think in that moment, you just want the ground to swallow you. So I don't mind it. I will say that the thing you just said, Toes, about though that he's maybe not worried about management. Well, he absolutely has to be, because if he's not, then he's not going to get the results. And what we've seen so far is he's not even getting the results or the performances. So if he's not coming in to be a really good manager and to care about that aspect of it, then I'm not sure he's doing a large proportion of his job, if I'm being completely honest. But I think he is trying. I think it is just really difficult. And Spurs are under such a massive spotlight, and everyone is hammering them. They're under such a microscope that any decision that goes wrong, it's just going to look terrible. And I mean, not even just Kinsky. I think everything so far for Tudor has been going terribly wrong.
Yeah, and I think he is struggling with that motivational side, I think, of Spurs at the moment, which is what they really need. There's been a real lack of any sort of new manager bounce at all, any sort of pick up in morale, any sort of team spirit. And I think because of the situation that Spurs are in, that they realistically should be so far from that situation that as players, I think a lot of them do have in the back of their heads, well, and I don't want to be saying, oh, they don't care if they go down, but they would be crazy to not be thinking that, well, if we do go down, I probably am a good enough player to get a move and stay in the Prem. So as opposed to maybe some teams like your Burnley and your Wolves who have players in that squad who are on considerably lower wages, are not as good quality, likely are probably to stay in the Championship or not get a move that is equivalent to being a Premier League footballer in terms of team and salary. Whereas, yeah, Spurs are, even if it's that 1% thinking in the back of their mind that it's not the end of the world personally if I go down, then I think that's already puts them at an advantage as opposed to the other teams in and around that relegation race, looking at West Ham, Forest, Wolves, Burnley, who, like we hear, probably have relegation clauses, understand that the team they're playing for aren't one of the biggest clubs financially. Whereas, yeah, a lot of these players, when they were joining Spurs, this would just not even be a consideration. And maybe I think part of where Tudor should be improving is getting their motivation up and getting that almost that reality check into maybe the situation that Spurs are in at the moment.
I think there's two ways looking at it. Yes, one way is I look at Tudor 100%, and we're going to talk so much about him and what Spurs hierarchy was thinking of appointing him. But also, I think what makes the result against Atletico even more disappointing is the fact that, like you said right at the beginning, I think you said this is their relief almost, or this is what they look forward to away from the Premier League. And if they did want to make a move in the summer because they've just had enough of playing for Spurs, then the likes of Van de Ven, Romero, Danza, the back three is arguably, well, it is their best back three that is available to them when everyone is fit. And so they all started. And I think their performance on the day was just terrible. I mean, Pedro Porro is the starting right back or / right wing back. Jet Spence has played the majority of minutes so far this season and has played for England as well. You look at that front three of Tell, who's played for Bayern Munich in some big, massive games. Richarlison, who's always wanting to be the main guy. Well, here's an opportunity in Champions League. Randall Kolo Muani, who's a guy who Tudor absolutely loved at Juventus. I'm maybe going to skip over the midfield and Sarr and Gray because obviously they're two young lads. They didn't have great games either, by the way. No one had a great game. But there's a lot of really good players out there. So if you told me that Atletico won 5-2, I would have said, wow, what incredible play by them. What chances they must have carved out for themselves. And yes, errors by Kinsky, by Van de Ven. But even if they didn't, I didn't have the belief that Spurs were going to go out there and win that game of football. I don't know how they're going to go about trying to create those chances. I don't know how they're going to try and stop Atletico. And when they were trying to stop Atletico, they looked like they were half-assing it, if we're being completely honest. So, again, in the one game that you have remaining in the season, they're doing themselves, we may as well give it a go because it's not reflective of our league performance and our league form. And potential suitors in the future could look at this game and go, wow, he's a decent player. Maybe we'll grab him when Spurs potentially go down. And it's not to be. I think, yes, we're going to have to look at Tudor, but these players have to take a long, hard look at themselves, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, the player performances have been absolutely nowhere near where they should be. How they can pick that up, I don't know, because there is not much left of the season. They are very likely going to be out of the Champions League. I mean, you never know. You never know, especially with the Champions League. I mean, Atletico Madrid beat Barcelona 4-0 in the Copa del Rey, and it was in the return leg. They lost 3-0, and Barcelona almost had a comeback there. So it's not completely out of the question. However, I would not be putting any money on that happening at all. So yeah, with 9 games in the Premier League left, I believe Spurs have. How can they get that motivation? How can they get that performance up on a personal level? I'm not too sure. And tactically, I don't know either. I genuinely don't know either. It seems to be that their defense at the moment, I think, is their biggest weakness and is just absolutely all over the place. I think Van de Ven and Romero have been really, really poor recently. I think whoever's been playing fullback, I mean, just the way that Spurs fullbacks are, they are poor defensively generally, but they normally make up with it for their attack, which just has been lacking as well. See, that would be the one thing to I suppose, to try and sort for me is sorting out the defense, and even saying that they have at least tried some things to do that. I mean, they play start playing like three at the back more regularly. They've started playing more defensive-minded midfielders like Archie Gray, like Basuma, a lot more regularly, as opposed to having like Xavi Simons playing in the midfield. He's now, when he's playing, is like out wide. So yeah, I don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't know how, as a club, without just looking at, oh, the players need to play better, how you can actually get them playing better and get them playing well enough that they do stay up. Because at the moment, it's 2026. They are the bottom side in terms of form in the Prem. They haven't won a game all calendar year. So yeah, it needs a big upturn. It needs it quick.
I saw a funny tweet that was Port Vale have beaten more Premier League sides this calendar year than Tottenham Hotspur. So I think you could probably chuck Southampton in that as well when they beat Fulham. Yeah, so there's a few of those really terrible stats going around. I think first time in the club's history that they lost 6 games in a row. I mean, they're breaking records for all the wrong reasons, and it seems to be happening on a weekly basis. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Where that motivation comes from, I think one aspect of it has to be Igor Tudor. I think that's literally why he came in, to make a difference like he has done previously. It is absolutely not working out right now. I think the other thing, though, is, like you mentioned with Romero and Van de Ven being really, really poor, where is the leadership in this Spurs side? Because I do agree. I look at Romero, I look at Van de Ven, and I go, they are leaders, but they're not showing it on the football pitch, and they're continuously getting sent off. They're continuously putting in bad performances, and they're not exempt from being the ones who are making the errors as well on the pitch. So there is a real lack of leadership being shown. I'm not questioning that it's not within some of these players, but I look at who is actually demonstrating, and I'm going probably Archie Gray. I mean, at the most, and what is he 20 yet, or maybe just 21? I have no idea. But
Possibly not even.
From one of, from one of your youngest players, that is great to see, but he needs help, and I think he massively needs it. And I worry because in terms of the style of play, like you said, Van de Ven and Romero are two of their best players. They play at centre back. They're both fit. They're both available, but they're both putting in clangers. That is not good at all. And maybe attack is the best form of defense. Maybe they shouldn't even bother trying to defend if the defense is so bad. But this is the thing, because I know, and you know, and everyone watching this knows, that Spurs, with the players they have, are better than they're showing. But once you get on a roll, it's very hard to break it. And only being a point off the relegation zone with a manager who I'm not even sure by the time that this video comes out that he will still be in the job is incredibly worrying. It's a colossal mess, and I think it's probably been a long time coming, which has culminated in what we're seeing right now. And I think that they just have to, it's simple to say, but just try and attack, forget defending, maybe go like full Ange when he was at the club and right at the beginning of his tenure, which feels like a millennium ago. But just forget defending, because that's not what they're good at. They got fullbacks who are basically wing-backs, centre-backs who love getting forward. Just attack, just go all-out attack, and maybe try and outscore the opposition that way. Is that something that's feasible, do you think?
On paper, yeah, and in theory, possibly. But I still feel, even like I said, you were saying, without those leaders, like in terms of when Spurs are struggling, who are they looking to assure things? When they're struggling defensively, you think they're going to look to Romero and Van de Ven to get everyone in gear, sort everyone out. Going forward, I don't even know who that should be. I don't know who that team is looking towards to make something out of nothing, to really drive and carry the team forward. And like you said, under Ange, it felt like when they had those players, it was Heung-min Son, Kulusevski, Maddison. The latter two of those are injured at the moment. Is it Richarlison? Is it Colomani? Is it Mateus Tell? None of these players feel like creators or leaders or strong characters that can make something out of nothing for Spurs when they need it. And I don't know if they have even a good enough attack to rely on in terms of making up for that poor defense. And I think teams they're playing know that. There's absolutely no fear when playing Spurs at the moment because you can go and attack them and target that defense. Don't even let them have the ball, which is maybe something they're probably best at the moment, is just their possession and just keeping the ball. I think in that middle third is maybe where they're probably strongest. But if you're just going at them and pressing their defense, then their defending is struggling, and then you're not even worried about them counter-attacking you and going the other way either. And like you said, sort of going on that roll and getting out of that momentum. It's also the teams coming at them knowing how poor they are going. And I think that's why I said they need to win quickly, because if they don't, the run's going to keep going. They need to get a win so that teams can go, okay, Spurs just actually played really well there. We need to be aware of what they did well in that game. Whereas at the moment, there's not really anything good for other teams to be aware of either.
Yeah, when you were asking the question, and before you said, I was thinking to myself, yeah, it's Kulusevski, it's Maddison. I think the only name you didn't mention there was Dominic Solanke, who himself has probably not, his stock hasn't risen, but it's held firm. I don't think it's dropped at all because he has been chipping in with a couple of goals here or there. But the thing you said about the midfield and keeping the ball in midfield, yeah, that's great, but they're not really affecting the play when they have it there. So I kind of think, I kind of think to like, yeah, what's the point? I mean, great, you got possession, but clearly that's not working for you. So it is such a mess. It is such a mess because at least I look at, I don't know, Nottingham Forest, West Ham, and I go, right, it's not going to be pretty, but they've got a way of playing. They're going to hit it down the flanks. They're going to try and hit the big target man up front. And they're going to do their best to try and get as many points as possible. And Nottingham Forest did on the weekend against Manchester City. And then you think to yourself, right, would Spurs be able to produce that performance right now? Absolutely not. And especially when you consider the fact that I think West Ham in the last 10 games are only 3 points off Manchester City. And in that same run, like you mentioned, Spurs are the worst side in the league. So it's worrying. It's so, I can't actually believe that I genuinely think that Spurs can go down. Like, I'm not even trying to rage bait. I don't even. It's not even hyperbole. It's not doing it for clicks. I genuinely believe Spurs could go down, and even Spurs fans, I think they could go down. Which is worrying. Which is really, really worrying. I mean, that's what we love about football. It brings up these unpredictabilities, these things you can never imagine. But surely not, right? Even though we're having this conversation, surely not, right?
It's still, and that's the thing with your relegation races, your battles for top fours, your title race. You can get yourself in a great position, but ultimately it comes down to those last 10, 9, 8, 7, how many games are left. It comes down to those final games and how you are playing in that moment. And it's about going into those positions with some sort of form. West Ham, it feels like they had that, like you said. Forest feel like they are still at times playing better. You've got Crystal Palace have started to improve a little bit and have pressed on. Leeds still feels like they have been fairly consistent, haven't been on a bad run recently. So it feels like all of those teams around them are playing better, are getting more results, are more confident, and Spurs are going slowly down. And I think if Spurs lose their next 2-3 Premier League games, I think they will become probably the favourites to be in that 18th position. Because I would be surprised if, say, your West Ham, Forest, Leeds, if they don't pick up any points in their next 3, and that's even without looking at their fixtures. It just feels like they have the opportunity, whereas, yeah, I think if Spurs go, it'll be 32 games played, so 6 games left, and they're still on 29 points. That'll be, 9 losses in a row? And even then, saying Spurs are going to lose their next 3 doesn't feel crazy. I can't think who Spurs' next 3 fixtures are. I know they've got Liverpool next, which again, how confident can you be of a Spurs fan for them to go to Anfield and do something?
Well, this is the thing. Spurs are doing a great job of distracting everyone from how bad Liverpool have been. So you never really know. But they have a terrible record at Anfield, and I don't expect them to go there and win. I'd actually expect them to lose. But weirdly, I have more confidence that on the weekend that West Ham will get a result against Manchester City after seeing what Nottingham Forest did against Man City last weekend than I do that Spurs will against Liverpool at Anfield, which is mental because City are a better side than Liverpool and Spurs on paper are a better side than Nottingham Forest. They're not showing it at all. And like you said, after Liverpool on Sunday, they then have the return leg against Atletico Madrid, which I mean, I just don't see it. I think they played themselves out of the tie. Maybe they'll flirt with it a little bit, but I don't think they're good enough to sustain it for a whole 90 minutes. I mean, we haven't even seen it for 30 minutes so far this season under Igor Tudor in the 4 games he's managed. But then after that, oh sorry, so they got the Nottingham Forest game at home
Mm.
next weekend on the Sunday, which is absolutely massive, and that's at home as well. Weirdly, because they're at home, it makes me think that they're less of favourites in that game because of the fact that if Forest go ahead, then I think the crowd will turn massively, and then it could affect the players, and clearly maybe it has been affecting the players. But then after the international break, they got Sunderland away, tricky, but maybe Sunderland will be on the beach. They got Brighton at home, again difficult, but maybe they'll be on the beach. I'm trying my best here, Spurs fans. They got Wolves away, Wolves trying to, the great escape, but they should probably be bottom. Villa away, Leeds United at home, Chelsea away, and then last game of the season, Everton at home, who may be on the beach. I don't know. Every game when when the team is in the form they are at the moment looks impossible that they're going to win. The likelihood is they're going to win a game. I would ask though, do you think the people at Tottenham, not the fans, but the higher ups, the board, the CEOs, do you think they think they're in a relegation race and there's a legitimate chance that they could go down? Because I think that if they did, maybe they'd be looking at Tudor's position because I'm 4 games, not seeing the new manager bounce at all. It's arguably maybe even got worse. Now sacking Thomas Frank looks like a bad decision when it was probably prolonged far too long. So do you think the higher ups at Spurs think they're in a relegation race?
Yeah, and I think the hiring of Tudor is probably reflective of that. I mean, he's not known as like a stylish manager. I mean, I think he's probably most known for having really good starts at clubs and like short spells of strong starts. He has not lasted long at many jobs. Um, doesn't seem like maybe the best manager to deal with on a personal level. So there's absolutely no expectation that there's a chance that he's going to be extended and stay for longer than was initially agreed on the interim. And he's known as being a bit of a hard ass. And I think that's exactly what they would have wanted, somebody to come in and give some players a good hard kick. And I think maybe that's what they were thinking. That's just what they'll need. They'll need somebody to come in, tell them how rubbish they've been, and then the results will turn instantly and Spurs will be playing as they should. That hasn't happened. And like you say, how long can you give that if what I think he has been hired for just hasn't happened already? And with 9 games left, who is going to be able to come in and do anything that's going to be instant enough for replacing Tudor to be effective? I'm not sure if that will ever happen. I just don't know who it would be. And I don't know if they would do that because it feels like maybe that's even more of a risk. I'm not sure.
I have got a name. Brace yourself. It is really boring. It's what they probably should have done in the first place, but it wasn't sexy. It was super obvious. It was Ryan Mason. Yeah, it's the boring, oh, he's got an affiliation with the club. Oh, he's coached with us before. He even took the first team head coach role for a little bit as well. But I think it was just the obvious thing to do, and maybe sometimes the obvious thing, yes, it's boring, but it's also the right decision to make. Um, I think in this one, it's showing so far, unless Spurs go on to do remarkably well in the back end of the season, which I don't think anyone's predicting, especially looking at the way Spurs play, that I can't really tell the style of play that Tudor's trying to employ because I had an idea what that was going to be with underlapping centre backs charging forward. I thought great Romero and Van de Ven going forward, and the midfield is going to be dogs of war, and Conor Gallagher is going to get further forward, and he's going to link up play with Solanke. I've just seen nothing. It's like the plan is just launch a ball long, hope it sticks, and run after the second ball. But because of the lack of confidence, they're just not even winning the second balls either. So I think they needed freedom, maybe not a kick up the ass. And now that's easy for me to say in hindsight, but yeah, I think it was right. I think it was Ryan Mason, and to not even 3 games ago in the league, it was a slightly better position. 3 games later in the league, and I'd say they probably are the favourites to go down now. Not even just one of. So yeah, I would have gone for Ryan Mason.
Yeah, maybe it would have been not even a safer appointment. It just feels like it felt like there was no confidence when Igor Tudor came in. There was nothing like reactions from fans or from anyone that was like, oh, okay, that is an appointment that is going to get Spurs out of this trouble. I have confidence in Tudor that he's going to do this. It was, and it wasn't even like, why have we sacked Frank? It was like, okay, we sacked Frank, haven't really got a manager who instills any more confidence. Whereas at least with Mason, it was, yeah, maybe some comfort there at the bare minimum. Maybe just less of a change to a new manager and just that change away from Frank and the morale and how they were playing. And yeah, maybe less of a drastic change could have been better for Spurs. But now, given the situation they are in, yes or no answer, Mev. Are Spurs going to go down? What's your prediction as it stands at the moment?
It's weird because when I'm so confident a team is going to lose the game, they genuinely get a result. The one team I haven't looked at is Nottingham Forest and their fixtures.
Yeah, it feels like that. Not, I think from that Nottingham Forest Spurs game, that is such a massive game for both teams, and I think we'll know out of those two who's going to go down after that game, and maybe not even the result, maybe even if it's just the performance, it could tell us a lot as well.
The thing is with Forest, because we're recording this before the Europa League games are played on the Thursday, so I don't know how they're going to go against Midtjylland. Are they potentially going to run, and then is that going to distract them from the league? I don't know. I'd actually probably say that I think West Ham are not going to go down at this point, just because I think I like the way they're playing, and I just think that they will pick up enough points. Okay, Nottingham Forest. Last game of the season is Bournemouth away. Before that, they've got Man United away. They've got Newcastle at home. Chelsea away. Yeah. Okay, that's not much better. They can't go down. They can, but they won't. But I don't know who is. Oh God, we're talking about Spurs. I don't think they're gonna go down, but they genuinely could. And it's not even a joke. It's legit. It's serious. They could go down. What do you think?
I think I agree, and I think the Arsenal fan in me really wants to say that they will go down. I think they will just have enough, and it'll be super close. And I think maybe Forest go down instead. But I still think the impact this is going to have on Spurs next season and as a football club is going to be massive. And I think there will be some big exits in the summer. I think they will likely struggle to recruit without paying massive wages, which I think they won't be in a position to be able to do without European football. And who knows how that is going to impact Spurs next season and how long that's going to roll, how long that's going to snowball. Will they drop off from a team who's really pushing for the Champions League because of this one season, whether they go down or not? I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised if for the next few seasons Spurs are hovering in mid-table. I don't think they'll be maybe in a relegation race as close as this, but yeah, I whether they go down or not, which I don't think they will, it was just going to be so detrimental to them.
If they don't bounce back immediately next season, and not from the championship, but with their form in the league table, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
immediately start competing for the Champions League places again, then I think that's the worry. It's always how you respond. But wait, did they finish 17th last season?
They did, yeah, but they had such a massive margin off where they were, and because they won the
Yes.
Europa League and qualified for the Champions League.
Yes. But in the league to finish 17th twice, if that were to
Yeah.
happen, or 17th and 16th, uh, yikes, yeah. I mean, like, if you're Conor Gallagher right now, yes, he wasn't getting the games at Atletico Madrid, but you're thinking to yourself, what on earth have I woke myself into? Why am I here? I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, we're all assuming that it's being teed up for Pochettino to come back in the summer. But does Pochettino want this job now? Really? I mean, yeah, sure, he wants to come back to the Premier League. He's made all the right noises. He's said the right things in the interviews. But are you 100% sure that this is the right move for your career? If he, after being away from club management for so long with the US men's national team, and then come back to Spurs, and then if that was to go badly, what's his job prospects after that? Obviously, he got an ego to back himself, but I guess that's the thing. Who wants the Spurs job right now? And I think maybe the wrong decision wasn't sacking Thomas Frank, but not sacking him earlier before Spurs got themselves into this position. Because now in this situation, it's very difficult to win, and I don't think even if Spurs stay in the Premier League, it's not a win. It's just a thank God we've survived.
Yeah. And I think with Poch, it could be largely dependent on how he does with the USA at the World Cup, at their home World Cup. If they have a really good run and say they get semi-finals or something like that, his
Yeah,
stock could be really high, and
yeah,
there could be much bigger clubs, not bigger, or teams playing a lot better at the moment, who would be going for him. And it's possible, or even quarterfinals. I think with the USA would be a very good achievement, probably given the quality of their squad. Um, so yeah, maybe Spurs would be hoping that the USA get knocked out in the group or something. Poch hasn't really got many other options, and it's just Spurs with their door open, which could maybe help some things for them, and is probably the right type of appointment maybe that Spurs would need for a bounce back and a bit of a rebuild.
but wouldn't you be super worried that a team after two terrible seasons in the league, then appoint a manager who has a terrible time at an international tournament? Yes, it's made for each other, but where are the standards coming from? Because it's not coming from the players, it's not coming from Igor Tudor, it's not coming from the hierarchy. Where's it coming from? The fans? The fans are gonna have to. I don't even know what the fans can do, and they're paying the most for the tickets than anyone else in the Premier League. I genuinely feel so sorry for Spurs fan right now because I, what do you do? I mean, I wouldn't want to go to watch this team right now play the way they are, but you paid your money for the season tickets probably, and they're not going to be any better without you. They're going to get worse without you. So you need to be there to rock up and show them some support and be there for them. But oh god, it's if they can just win one game. I mean, to genuinely be bottom of the form guide in the last 10 games, to have four less points than I think Burnley. I mean, it's atrocious. It's genuinely atrocious, and they are the headline right now. Spurs. That's why we're talking about. That's why everyone's talking about them. And it's about not being the headline, winning a game of football, and then everyone can calm down a bit. Yeah. Any solutions apart from just win?
No, I think that's what they got to do. I think, yeah, like I said, win one of the next three, and I think Spurs do look in a much better position. And maybe there's a bit of confidence, a little bit of morale from that, but I'm not super confident that that's even going to happen. To be honest, yeah, with Liverpool, Forest, and Sunderland, don't feel confident with any of those, and I wouldn't be if I was a Spurs fan.